help people live a life they love by creating and living their North Star.
I love that. So the North Star then, tell us more about that then.
I had my own experience, and I work with a lot of people now to realise the same thing, around that making success be this one defined thing that you're striving towards constantly doesn't work. And the concept of the North Star, there's quite a famous story, you've probably heard of it. It involves a baby born in December in a stable a couple of thousand years ago.
Oh, I'm not sure of it.
And there were three men, supposedly wise, all carrying presents. And they achieved their goal of finding this baby. But in every version of the story that I've ever heard, they never actually went to the North Star. And that's what got me thinking. I was like, I've done a bunch of different stuff and I've set these goals and I've achieved these goals and even when I achieve them, I can then find myself feeling quite unfulfilled, or I achieve the goal and I set another one straight away. And it just gave me this idea of, well, what if you never actually achieved the goal? What if you just had this thing that was the guiding light that you followed, but you accepted you were never going to achieve it? So in Buddhist philosophy, they talk about sort of focus on the process, detach from the outcome, and it was an embodiment of that. And I call it when-then syndrome. When I achieve this, then I'll be okay. When I achieve that, then I'll be all right. When I achieve this, then I'll be at peace. And that was the process that I'd been going through myself for so long. And one day it just dawned on me and thought, no, have a North Star. And I believe by having that North Star, it not only enables you to feel a lot more fulfilled, energized, inspired, but also there's a lot of information around how it can actually make you live longer as well, which is quite interesting.
So can you tell us a little bit about what led you to do what you do now?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll give the short version. I grew up with a belief that money equaled happiness. I went on a tangent to make as much money as I could as early as I could and kind of done okay with that. How that came about is I've got two very wealthy uncles. One's a billionaire, one's a multimillionaire, and my dad used to work in London, hated his job. He used to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, get home at 7, 8 o'clock at night, and he'd bring the stress and the frustration of work home with him. And I don't know if you can relate to this, but he's one of those people where he'd walk in the room and you could just sense this energy that you just don't want to be around. And that's what it was like for me. And one day I come home from school, I was about 10 years old, and I remember thinking, this is weird, why is Dad home? And it's because he'd quit his job to set up a business with one of my uncles. And when I first knew about it, I was like, oh, this is great. Yes, Dad's going to be just like Uncle Steve. This is going to be amazing, because Uncle Steve was charismatic and full of energy. Anyway, long story short, a few months went by and that business never ended up starting. I'm one of four. I was the oldest of four at 10 years old. And then I witnessed my dad fall into what I would perceive as a depression. Slept in a separate room to my mum, curtains shut all day, didn't leave the house, all the stereotypical stuff. And then at 11 years old, I just connected the dots and it was obvious. Uncle Mark, billionaire, really happy. Uncle Steve, multi-millionaire, really happy. Dad, when he worked in London, all right, he was stressed and frustrated, but he's happier than he is now where he doesn't have any money. So I became that kid buying and selling and ducking and diving and doing whatever I could at school, and then eventually got working in financial services. I stumbled across personal development. The more personal development I did, the more money I made, and that went on for some years. And then I went to an event with a personal development authority, a guy called Tony Robbins, 11 years ago, and that's where I had what I call my lightning moment, and bam, it just hit me. And I cried my eyes out for about 15 minutes, because in that moment I realised my real driver was not money. It'd never really been about money. What it was really about was my dad, and how my dad hadn't achieved certain things he was capable of, and the impact that had on him and my mum and me and my family and a whole host of other people. And I vowed in that moment I don't want anyone else to go through the suffering that he went through and we went through, and a bunch of other people arguably, as a result of that. So from that moment on, I've just been obsessed with anything to do with human awareness, human potential, human behaviour, to enable other people to achieve their full potential, live a life they love, and have what I call the ripple effect, which is when they achieve their full potential, it benefits not only them, but their family, their friends, their community, society, humanity, and the universe.